Senate Bill 2 prohibits the use of taxpayer money for elective surgeries and treatments for individuals who are in prison or in jail. Senate Bill 2 addresses an issue which was identified this past summer in administrative regulations when a Department of Corrections reg came up for approval. And I think it's important that the body understand some of the background around how this arose and exactly what happened. So I would like to yield to the gentleman from Laurel 90 for an explanation of the administrative reg.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Laurel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know we are running short on time, so I will be brief. This came up several times. The agency requested a deferral several times. But yes, it piqued the interest of the committee when we found out that the Department of Corrections did have policies on the books regarding transgender surgeries and hormone therapies. They were referenced in memo, though. It wasn't outright. And so when they did bring it in regulation, I was kind of shocked. And so we did have questions. We weren't just going to, close the door immediately. We wanted to have our questions heard or ask our questions. So we did have staff send Department of Corrections a series of questions that went ignored. We did call the commissioner before our committee. And while we did appreciate her coming, she was not at liberty to speak about a lot of these or answer a lot of our questions. So we did send another series of questions. Those also went unanswered. In the meantime, the Department of Corrections did request an AG opinion in which it did not rule in their favor, and they withdrew the regs. Around this time, the representative, the lady from Kenton 64, she did approach me, and I appreciate her work and all these endeavors. But that is how we got to this point. I think it's a very good piece of legislation that is ultimately protecting our taxpayer dollars and us being good stewards of those dollars. But with that, I will yield back, and we'll step back in should I need to answer any questions. Thank you, lady.
Thank you, Mr.
Lady
Speaker.
Buchanan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the gentleman from Laurel. As the gentleman said, first and foremost, our limited public resources should be directed toward the most urgent and essential needs. While health care within our prison system is necessary, the funds that we allocate must prioritize the health and safety of incarcerated individuals based on medical necessity, not personal choice, not cosmetic preference. Elective surgeries, those that are not medically necessary, can range from procedures which are oftentimes cosmetic surgeries or non-urgent treatments that do not significantly impact the individual's well-being or their ability to function. By continuing to fund such elective procedures, we are diverting valuable taxpayer dollars from other crucial areas. Areas like education, public health programs, and support for vulnerable communities. This is a misallocation of resources which ultimately hinders our ability to address more pressing societal needs and the very systems that are meant to rehabilitate individuals. It's important to distinguish between medical care and elective procedures. Essential medical care, excuse me. Those who are incarcerated still deserve adequate health care, including necessary treatments for injuries, chronic illnesses, and mental health conditions. This bill does not change the fact that medically necessary care is provided to inmates. The funds allocated for their treatment, however, should focus on meeting their basic needs and ensuring well-being during incarceration. On the other hand, elective surgeries do not typically address immediate or life-threatening health conditions. Elective surgeries such as cosmetic enhancements or procedures for these non-urgent reasons should not be funded at the public's expense. Our prison system is meant to serve a dual purpose: to punish those who have violated the law and to provide opportunities for rehabilitation. The purpose of incarceration is to offer opportunities for growth and reform and reintegration into society. Instead of funding procedures that are unrelated to rehabilitation or the basic health needs of incarcerated individuals, we should be focusing on education, vocational training, mental health care, and drug treatment, and so on. We've talked about these many times. I would like to point out that in this bill, since there was such a robust conversation about hormone treatment, that in this bill, the health care provider determines and documents the inmate's medical record that immediately terminating use of the drug or medication would cause physical harm to the inmate. So there is the ability for the health care professional to determine whether or not the individual needs to taper at a slower rate than an immediate termination. Mr. Speaker, if there are no questions, I move passage of Senate Bill 2.